In a frozen Russian cellar, a man holds a glowing blade. 7 others stand naked, praying. In 20 minutes, all 8 will be mutilated, and they did it willingly. What belief could convince 100,000 people to cut off their own genitals? What paradise was worth this hell? Tonight, you discover the sect that turned salvation into surgical horror. In this video, you'll discover the true story of the Skopsi, a Russian cult that convinced over 100,000 followers to voluntarily castrate themselves in the name of God. But the most disturbing part isn't the mutilation itself, it's what they believed would happen if they didn't do it. And I warn you, the methods they used were performed without anesthesia, in complete darkness, by men with no medical training. This is the story history textbooks refuse to tell. Russia, 1772, the Age of Enlightenment. Voltaire is writing about reason. Catherine the Great is modernizing her vast empire that stretches from Europe to Asia. She had no idea what was growing in her empire's shadows. In the remote province of Oriel, a peasant named Kondraty Selivanov begins preaching a radical interpretation of the Bible. His message is simple but terrifying. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. But Selivanov takes this further, much further. He claims that original sin entered humanity through sexual organs, that Adam and Eve's true crime wasn't eating forbidden fruit, it was sexual knowledge, and he offers his followers one path to paradise: complete removal of all sexual organs. Not just castration, total elimination. What happens next has never been shown in any documentary. The first ceremony happens in a windowless cellar. 7 men volunteer. They strip naked and form a circle. One man, designated as the operator, holds a heated blade. No doctor is present, no alcohol to dull the pain, only prayer and hymns. When investigators discover the cellar 3 weeks later, they find something that makes even hardened soldiers vomit. 3 wooden buckets containing 14 severed testicles preserved in salt, blood-soaked floors, and 7 men who can barely walk but claim they found heavenly peace. The Skopsi sect is born. And this is just the beginning. Selivanov's message spreads like wildfire through rural Russia. He's not recruiting criminals or outcasts. He's converting farmers, merchants, soldiers, normal men who believe they're trading earthly suffering for eternal glory. Not criminals, believers. The sect divides mutilation into 2 categories: the lesser seal and the greater seal. The lesser seal involves removal of the testicles only. Members perform this in group ceremonies called baptisms by fire. The method is brutal. The aftermath is worse. Survivors are told they've achieved the first level of purity, but it's not enough. The greater seal is reserved for the truly devoted. This involves complete removal of all external genitalia, everything. The procedure is performed in stages, sometimes over weeks, to prevent death from shock. Members who achieve the greater seal are revered as white doves, the holiest members of the sect. Women aren't exempt. Female followers undergo removal of their breasts, labia, and clitoris in ceremonies equally horrifying. Some historians estimate that 30% of Skopsi members were women. By 1800, the sect numbers over 5,000 members across Russia. Police raids became common, but the Skopsi have perfected secrecy. They operate through coded language, hidden symbols, and an underground network that rivals organized crime. But what happened next changed everything. The Skopsi discover something that makes their sect nearly unstoppable, impossible. Mutilated men and women live longer, rarely get sick, and accumulate enormous wealth because they have no families to support. The early 1800s mark the golden age of the Skopsi. Castrated men, unable to have families, pour all their energy into business.
They dominate Russian trade in textiles, banking, and transportation. Some become millionaires, Skopje merchants controlling an estimated 2.3 million rubles in assets, equivalent to $85 million today. In Moscow and St. Petersburg, wealthy Skopje merchants live in mansions with marble floors. Beneath those floors were cellars where the screaming never stopped. They secretly recruited new members, targeting young men drowning in debt or despair, offering them a twisted deal. Sacrifice your flesh, join our brotherhood, and we'll make you rich. And it worked. Historical records from 1850 show that Skopje members control over 40% of Moscow's cab driver industry and 25% of certain merchant guilds. They're so successful that at least 17 documented cases of minor nobility underwent the lesser seal between 1845 and 1870, despite the horrifying price. But underneath the wealth, the horror continues. Secret ceremonies grow more extreme. A former member who escaped in 1869 testified to police about what he witnessed. He described gatherings of 50 to 100 people in underground chambers 8 feet below ground, lit with 40 tallow candles arranged in a pentagram pattern. Hymns echo off stone walls, while men are tied to wooden tables. The operators use red-hot blades, claiming fire purifies the flesh and prevents infection. The survival rate? Only 70%. 3 out of every 10 men who undergo the Greater Seal died within weeks from infection, blood loss, or shock. The dead were buried in secret graveyards, burial sites 12 to 15 miles from populated areas, graves dug exactly 7 feet deep, the sect's sacred number. When police finally discover one of these burial sites in 1872, they uncovered over 200 unmarked graves. Imagine being the police officer who opened that first commune cellar in 1920. The smell hit first, then the sounds, grown men whimpering like children. Then you see the tables, the tools, the jars. Now, you might be wondering, how could this happen? How could thousands of people voluntarily submit to such horror? The answer is more disturbing than you can imagine. The Skopje developed sophisticated psychological manipulation techniques. New recruits weren't immediately mutilated. First came 6 to 9 months of indoctrination, averaging 4-hour prayer sessions 6 days per week. They attended prayer meetings where they heard testimonies from castrated members who claimed supernatural experiences, visions of heaven, freedom from sexual desire, direct communication with God. They were shown the wealth and success of existing members. They were told that sexual desire was the root of all human suffering, war, poverty, crime, disease, and that only through purification could humanity be saved. Potential recruits were isolated from family and friends, sleep-deprived, fed minimal food, subjected to hours of repetitive prayer that induced trance-like states. By the time they agreed to mutilation, they believed they were heroes saving humanity. Let me describe what actually happened during these ceremonies, based on medical reports and survivor testimonies. This is the reality behind the cult. The procedure for the lesser seal took approximately 20 minutes. The victim, because that's what they were, would be stripped and laid on a wooden table. 4 members held down his arms and legs. A leather strap was placed in his mouth to prevent him from biting his tongue. The operator would recite prayers while heating a curved castration knife over open flames until it glowed red, heated to approximately 800 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to cauterize on contact. Then, without warning, he would grab the scrotum, pull it taut, and slice through in one motion. The testicles were immediately cauterized with hot iron to stop bleeding. You're 19 years old. You've been praying for 3 months. They tell you tonight is your rebirth. You lie on the table. You smell the fire heating the blade. Your last thought before the pain is, "I am saving my soul." Your first thought after is, "What have I done?" It gets worse. For the greater seal, the procedure was performed in stages over weeks to prevent fatal shock. First, the testicles were removed as described above. 2 weeks later, if the victim survived, the penis was amputated at the base using a similar method: heated blade, immediate cauterization, no anesthesia. While you were reading that sentence, it took 3 seconds. The cauterization of a human body took 8 seconds. Russian doctors timed it. A hollow reed was inserted into the urethra before cauterization to maintain an opening for urination. This reed stayed in place for weeks while the wound healed. Many victims died when the reed was infected or dislodged. Medical experts who examined surviving Skopje members in the 1880s reported horrific scarring, chronic infections, and urinary problems that plagued members for life.
The last known surviving Skopje member died in 1968 at age 96. With him died one of history's darkest chapters. The Skopje believed they were creating heaven on earth. Instead, they created hell within their own bodies and called it holy. Not medieval times, the age of enlightenment. Not punishment, reward. History remembers them as a footnote, but the 100,000 people who suffered through this nightmare deserve more than footnotes. They deserve to be remembered as a warning. If this story disturbed you as much as it disturbed me to research, you might want to explore our next episode, The Blood Countess, Elizabeth Bathory's 650 Victims. Click the video on screen or subscribe so you don't miss it. Until then, remember, the darkest chapters of history aren't in the past, they're lessons for the future.